At my father's funeral, a stranger showed up with a child who looked exactly like me, and that's when I realized my dad had a second family for 20 years. I need to tell this story because the weight of it is crushing me from the inside out. 3 months ago, I stood at my father's funeral, thinking I was mourning a man I knew everything about. Then she walked in with that kid, and my entire world crumbled like wet cardboard. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start where it really began, the moment I decided to become exactly like the man I was burying. 6 years ago, I had everything. Sarah and I had been together since college, married for 3 years. We had Emma, our beautiful 4-year-old daughter who had my eyes and Sarah's smile. I worked at a marketing firm downtown, made good money, came home to a warm house and loving family. The American dream, right? Wrong. Because somewhere along the way, I started believing I deserved more. It started with Melissa from accounting. Just friendly conversations at first. She laughed at my jokes in a way that made me feel like I was 22 again, not 32 with a mortgage and a kindergartner's school fees. She'd touch my arm when she talked, lean in close to look at spreadsheets on my computer screen. Her perfume was different from Sarah's. New. Exciting. I told myself it was harmless. Just office flirtation. Everyone does it. It doesn't mean anything. The company conference in Denver changed everything. Sarah was home with Emma, who had the flu. Melissa and I ended up at the hotel bar after the last presentation. 1 drink became 3. Her hand on my knee became my hand in her hair. The elevator ride became a betrayal that would destroy everything I'd built. I wish I could say I felt guilty immediately. I wish I could say I confessed right away. But the truth is uglier than that. I felt alive. I felt wanted in a way that daily routine had worn away. So I didn't stop. For 4 months, I lived a double life. Business trips that weren't real. Late meetings that never happened. I became an expert at deception, just like someone else I knew. I downloaded apps to hide messages, created false email accounts, kept a separate credit card Sarah didn't know about. I became a stranger in my own home, kissing my daughter goodnight with lips that had betrayed her mother hours earlier. Sarah knew. Of course she knew. Women always know, don't they? She'd ask about my day with this look in her eyes, like she was giving me a chance to come clean. But I'd just smile and lie. I'd hold her at night and feel nothing but the hollow echo of what we used to be. The morning it all fell apart, my phone was on the kitchen counter while I was in the shower. Emma was watching cartoons. Sarah was making breakfast. And Melissa, who'd been drinking wine alone in her apartment, decided to send a message that couldn't be misunderstood. A photo that couldn't be explained away. I came downstairs to find Sarah holding my phone, her face completely blank. Emma was still watching TV, laughing at something animated and innocent. Sarah didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just looked at me like I was a stranger who'd broken into her house. Emma, she said, her voice steady as stone, go play in your room for a bit, okay? What followed was the systematic destruction of everything I'd built. Not in anger, but in cold, calculated precision. Sarah had already called a lawyer. She'd already found an apartment. She'd already told her parents. While I was sneaking around, thinking I was so clever, she was preparing for the inevitable. I kept hoping you'd stop, she said. I kept hoping you'd remember what we have. What Emma needs. But you're just like him, aren't you? I didn't understand what she meant then. I thought she was talking about some ex-boyfriend. I had no idea she was talking about my father. The divorce was swift and brutal. Sarah got primary custody. I got Emma every other weekend and Wednesday dinners. The house was sold. My reputation at work was destroyed when Melissa, guilty and drunk, told everyone at the office Christmas party. I had to transfer to a different branch, take a pay cut, move into a 1-bedroom apartment that smelled like the previous tenant's cats. But the worst part was Emma. My little girl, who used to run to the door when I came home, who used to beg for daddy stories at bedtime, now looked at me with confusion and hurt. She was only 4, but she knew something had broken. She knew daddy didn't live at home anymore. She knew mommy cried when she thought no one was looking. Why don't you live with us anymore? She asked during one of my weekends. Did I do something bad? How do you explain to a 4-year-old that daddy destroyed everything because he was selfish? How do you tell her that the man she loves is actually the villain in this story? You don't. You just hold her and promise to do better, knowing that some things can't be fixed. Then, 6 months ago, my father died. Heart attack at his desk, working late as always. The man who taught me about honor, commitment, and family values. The man who'd been married to my mother for 40 years. The perfect husband. The perfect father. Or so I thought. The funeral was everything my father would have wanted. Dignified. Traditional. The church was packed with colleagues, friends, extended family. My mother sat in the front row, the picture of graceful grief. My sister flew in from Seattle with her family. Even Sarah came, bringing Emma, because despite everything, she said Emma deserved to say goodbye to her grandfather. I was giving the eulogy, standing at the podium, looking out at all these faces that had known and loved my father. I was talking about his dedication to family, his unwavering moral compass, the way he taught me about integrity. The words tasted like ash in my mouth because I knew I'd failed to live up to any of it. That's when I saw her. She stood at the back of the church, wearing a simple black dress. Mid-40s, elegant in an understated way. But it wasn't her that made my voice falter mid-sentence. It was the teenager standing next to her. A boy, maybe 17, with shoulders just starting to broaden into manhood. He had my father's nose. My nose. My jawline. My eyes. He looked exactly like my high school graduation photos. The woman met my gaze across the church, and in her eyes, I saw recognition. Not of me, but of this moment. She'd been waiting for this. She'd known this day would come. I stumbled through the rest of the eulogy, my mind racing. When the service ended, I watched her approach my mother during the reception. Watched my mother's face go from polite confusion to shock to something that looked like resignation? She knew. My God, my mother knew. The woman's name was Helen. The boy was Marcus. And for 20 years, they'd been my father's other family. Not an affair. Not a mistake. A full, complete, parallel life. A house 40 minutes away. Birthday parties. Christmas mornings. Baseball games and school plays. A son who called him dad and had no idea he had siblings until a week before this funeral. Helen hadn't come to cause drama. She'd come because Marcus deserved to say goodbye to his father. She'd come because 20 years of hiding was enough. She'd come because my father had died at his desk, working late, except he wasn't at his office. He was at their house, helping Marcus with college applications. My mother pulled me aside, her grip on my arm tight enough to bruise. Not here, she hissed. Not in front of Emma. But Emma had already noticed Marcus. Kids notice everything, don't they? She tugged on my sleeve, looking up at me with those innocent eyes. Daddy, why does that boy look like you? The reception dissolved into chaos, but a quiet kind. The kind where everyone pretends nothing is happening while everything falls apart. Relatives whispered in corners. Helen and Marcus left quickly, but not before Marcus looked at me with eyes full of questions I couldn't answer. My mother waited until everyone was gone before she broke down. Not in tears, but in bitter, angry laughter. 20 years, she said. 20 years of business trips and late meetings. 20 years of another woman raising his child. And I stayed. I stayed because I thought keeping the family together was more important than my pride. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw myself reflected in her eyes. Not her son, but another version of the man who'd betrayed her. I knew about your affair, she said quietly. Sarah told me. And do you know what I thought? I thought, just like his father. You inherited more than his nose, didn't you? The truth was suffocating. Every memory of my father was now tainted. Every lesson about honor, every talk about commitment, every proud moment, all of it was built on a foundation of lies. He'd stood at my wedding, toasted to faithful love, while maintaining another family across town. He'd held Emma as a baby while his other son was starting middle school. But here's the thing that really destroyed me. Marcus was a good kid. Straight A's. Heading to college on a partial scholarship. Volunteered at a youth center. Helen had raised him well, despite the circumstances. My father had been a good dad to him, too. Present. Involved. Loving. He'd given Marcus everything he'd given me, except legitimacy. Sarah found me later that night, sitting in my car outside the funeral home, unable to drive, unable to move. Now you know, she said simply. This is what it feels like to realize the person you loved was never who you thought they were. She was right. But she was also wrong. Because I wasn't just grieving my father or his lies. I was grieving the realization that I'd become him without even knowing that's what I was becoming. The next few weeks were a blur of revelations. The will reading, where we discovered my father had left provisions for Marcus's education. The second house, titled in Helen's name. The photographs Helen eventually shared, showing my father at Marcus's little league games while I thought he was at conferences. My sister took it the hardest. She'd idolized our father, named her son after him. Now she couldn't look at her own child without thinking about the brother she'd never known existed. My mother filed for a posthumous divorce, if such a thing was even possible. She wanted his name off everything, wanted to erase 40 years of marriage like they'd never happened. And Emma? Emma started asking questions I couldn't answer. Why is Grandma so sad? Who was that boy? Why doesn't he live with Grandma? Children adapt to broken families. They adjust to divorce, to custody schedules, to 2 homes and 2 sets of rules. But how do you explain that their grandfather, the man they loved, had another family? How do you explain betrayal that spans generations? You don't. You just watch as their innocence erodes a little more. It's been 3 months since the funeral, and I'm sitting in my apartment, watching Emma color at my coffee table. It's my weekend with her. She's drawing our family, but it's all wrong now. Stick figures scattered across the page instead of grouped together. Mommy in one corner. Daddy in another. A confused scribble where Grandpa used to be. Marcus reached out last week. He wanted to meet properly, to understand who his father really was. We met at a coffee shop, 2 strangers who shared DNA and nothing else. I didn't know, he said immediately. About you. About any of it. He told me his other family died in a car accident when I was a baby. He said that's why we couldn't talk about them. A lie to cover a lie to cover a lie. It's almost impressive in its audacity. Marcus is a good kid. Better than I was at his age. Better than I am now. He showed me photos from his phone. My father at his science fair. My father teaching him to drive. My father at his high school graduation just 6 months ago, proud and beaming, probably telling everyone around him about his brilliant son. He was a good dad, Marcus said quietly. I know that doesn't help you, but he was. He never missed anything important. He was always there when I needed him. The thing is, he was a good dad to me too. That's what makes this so much worse. He wasn't absent or neglectful. He was present and loving and involved. He just managed to be that for two families simultaneously, like some kind of emotional double agent. Helen won't speak to my mother, and I don't blame her. But she sent a letter through a lawyer, explaining her side. She'd met my father before he married my mother. They'd broken up when he got the job opportunity that moved him to our city. She found out she was pregnant after he'd already married my mother. He promised to divorce her, to make things right. Then I was born, and he promised to wait until I was older. Then my sister was born. Then Marcus started school. Then. 20 years of then. She knew about us the whole time. Marcus grew up knowing he had a father who couldn't be there all the time because of work. She watched my father juggle two lives, lying to everyone, including himself about what he was doing. I'm not proud of it, her letter said. But I loved him. And he loved Marcus. That has to count for something. Does it? Does love count when it's built on deception? Sarah and I are trying co-parenting therapy now. Not to get back together, that ship has sailed and sunk. But to figure out how to raise Emma without passing on this legacy of betrayal. The therapist says children learn relationship patterns from their parents. They internalize what they see as normal. What has Emma internalized? That daddies leave. That love isn't enough. That families break apart for reasons she can't understand. Last week, she asked me if I have another family somewhere else. If she has brothers or sisters she doesn't know about. The question hit like a physical blow because how could I blame her for wondering? In her world, that's what men do. They have secrets. They have other lives. No, baby, I told her. You're my only family. You and mommy, even though we don't live together anymore. She looked at me with eyes too knowing for a 5-year-old and said, that's what grandpa probably said too. My mother is selling the house. 40 years of memories, and she wants none of it. She's moving closer to my sister, starting over at 65. She found receipts going back years. Jewelry she never received. Vacations she never took. A whole financial life she knew nothing about. I was so proud of him, she told me last week. Working so hard to provide for us. Never complaining about the long hours. I used to brag to my friends about what a dedicated husband he was. The irony is choking. But here's what really haunts me, I see myself in this story, just one generation removed. I betrayed Sarah the same way my father betrayed my mother. I created secrets, lived a double life, destroyed trust that can never be rebuilt. The only difference is my deception lasted months, not decades. My betrayal created one broken home, not two. Is that better? Or is it just a difference of degree, not kind? Marcus wants a relationship with us. He wants to know his siblings, his other family. My sister refuses to see him. My mother can't bear to look at him. And me? I see my father every time I look at this kid who did nothing wrong except exist. Emma will grow up knowing about Marcus eventually. She'll understand that families can be complicated, messy, built on lies that span decades. She'll learn that the people we trust most can harbor the biggest secrets. She'll know that love and betrayal can exist in the same person, in the same moment, in the same breath. That's my legacy to her. Not money or property or cherished heirlooms, but the knowledge that the people who are supposed to protect you can be the ones who hurt you most. The other day, I was picking Emma up from Sarah's, and I saw her with someone. A man I didn't recognize, helping her carry groceries. She was laughing. Really laughing, not the polite courtesy laugh she'd given me for the last year of our marriage. Emma ran to him, and he picked her up, swung her around. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to feel betrayed. But all I felt was empty. This is what I threw away. This is what I destroyed. Sarah deserves someone who won't betray her. Emma deserves a father figure who won't disappoint her. They deserve better than what the men in my family have offered. My father's funeral was 3 months ago, but in a way, I'm still there. Still standing at that podium, looking at Marcus, seeing the web of lies that created us both. Still watching my mother's face crumble as she realizes her life was a performance where she was the only one who didn't know it was acting. Still seeing Emma's confused face, trying to understand why her family looks like a puzzle with missing pieces. I've started writing letters to Emma for when she's older. Trying to explain, to apologize, to warn her. I tell her about the choices we make in moments of weakness that define us forever. I tell her about the weight of secrets, how they poison everything they touch. I tell her that love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice we make every single day, and I chose wrong. I don't know if she'll ever read them. I don't know if they'll help or just hurt more. But I need her to know that she wasn't the reason her family fell apart. She was the only good thing in it. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with Marcus again. He wants to know about our father's childhood, his parents, the history he never learned. I'll tell him what I know, though I'm not sure any of it was real. Was our father the man who taught me to ride a bike, or the man who was teaching Marcus at the same time? Was he the man who read me bedtime stories, or the man who was rushing home to Helen? Was he anyone at all, or just a ghost wearing different masks for different audiences? I used to think the worst thing that could happen was Sarah finding out about my affair. I was wrong. The worst thing is becoming a cautionary tale for my daughter, a reminder that trust is fragile and people are weak. The worst thing is knowing that someday, Emma might look at the people she loves and wonder what secrets they're hiding, what lies they're living. Because that's what we've taught her. That's the inheritance we've given her. My father is dead, but his choices echo through generations. My choices echo too. Every other weekend, I see their impact in Emma's careful distance, in the way she watches me like she's waiting for me to disappoint her again. And the brutal truth? She's right to watch. She's right to be careful. Because I'm my father's son in all the worst ways. Marcus sent me a text last night. A photo from his high school graduation. My father standing next to him, proud, wearing the same tie he wore to my college graduation. The same smile. The same lie. I miss him, Marcus wrote. Even knowing everything, I miss him. I understand. I miss him too. I miss the father I thought I had. I miss the husband I thought I was. I miss the family I destroyed trying to have more than I deserved. But mostly, I miss the daughter who used to trust me. The little girl who believed her daddy was a hero. The innocence I stole from her the moment I decided my desires mattered more than her security. Sarah is getting married next year. She told me last week, very matter of fact, because it affects our custody schedule. The man from the groceries. The one who makes her really laugh. The one Emma runs to. He's a good man, Sarah said. Actually good. Not performatively good. Not conditionally good. Just good. The distinction stings because I know exactly what she means. I congratulated her. What else could I do? I forfeited my right to opinions when I chose Melissa over my family. I gave up my voice in Sarah's happiness when I made her miserable. Emma will have a stepfather. A man who might be more of a father to her than I ever was. A man who chose them instead of betraying them. A man who might help her unlearn the lessons I taught her about love and trust and family. I hope he does. I hope he's everything I wasn't. The last time I saw my father alive, he was leaving for a business trip. I know now he was going to Marcus's senior awards ceremony. He hugged me, told me he was proud of me, told me to take care of my family. Family is everything, he said. Never forget that. He was right. Family is everything. That's why betraying them costs you everything too. I stand in my empty apartment, looking at Emma's drawings on my refrigerator. Stick figures scattered across pages, never touching, never together. This is her normal now. This is what I've given her. My father left me a house built on lies that took 20 years to collapse. I left Emma ruins that fell apart in 4 months. I guess that makes me the more efficient destroyer. She draws herself smaller now, tucked into corners of the page. She draws me far away, sometimes off the edge entirely. She draws her mother with someone new, someone better, someone who stays. She's 5 years old and already knows that love is conditional, that families fracture, that the people who promise to protect you are the ones you need protection from. That's my real inheritance. Not the money or the house or the family name, but the generational curse of men who wanted more than they deserved and destroyed everything reaching for it. Marcus wants to change his last name to his mother's. He says carrying our father's name feels like carrying a lie. I understand. Sometimes I want to change mine too, to become someone else, someone who didn't inherit this tendency toward destruction. But changing your name doesn't change your nature. My father proved that. He was 2 different men with the same broken core. I'm just one man with the same weakness, the same selfishness, the same capacity for devastating the people who love me most. Emma will grow up knowing this. She'll date wondering if every man is hiding something. She'll marry with one eye on the exit. She'll love with her guard up, always waiting for the betrayal, always ready for the reveal. Because that's what I taught her. That's what my father taught me. That's what we do. We destroy from the inside out, one lie at a time, until all that's left is the echo of what could have been. I am my father's son, and that's the worst thing I've ever had to admit. And Emma? Emma is my daughter. God help her.